Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, March 3, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the has been like in your year recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at this tweet from Andy Hazelton. He's one of the persons on Twitter. If you're not already following him, you need to. He actually works at NOAA, and that stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, basically the same website that we get the satellite images from. And he's stating that the latest CANSIPS model is trending towards an even warmer Atlantic and cooler ENSO. You know that ENSO stands for El Nino Southern Oscillation, for a peak hurricane season in September 2024. Honestly, some of these climate model forecasts are starting to look silly with favorable setup they're showing for the Atlantic a few months to go, but definitely some sirens blaring that is going to be a quite active hurricane season. I mean, look at the sea surface temperatures being forecasted for the Caribbean and the main development region, way above normal temperatures in the gold and orange shades right there. This is definitely a very bad situation setting up. And not only that, but look at the blues across the eastern Pacific. That's the ENSO. We're going to be having a La Nina, and even a commenter, Steve Cortino, confirms or backs up what Andy was stating. And yeah, this is just crazy at this point. Definitely want to see how sea surface temperatures evolve over the next month with that negative NAO regime, but I don't have a great feeling about this year. Both quantity and quality of storms could be high. We basically show the wider view of the map that we just saw, with September 2024 showing that possible La Nina that's developing with the cooler than average sea surface temperatures across the central and eastern Pacific Ocean, which would support more upward motion across the Atlantic, bringing more storms and rainfall in our portion of the basin and less storms across the central and eastern Pacific. And he also showed this map that was showing more in the way of low pressure, a lot of low pressure taking shape across the main development region and the Caribbean. We know low pressure is basically the building blocks for these storms. All of these systems, the center of these systems is basically low pressure, and we see the precipitation forecast for September with all of the greens that represent rainfall reaching all the way from the main development region from Africa into the Caribbean. Look at that spot right there to the south of Jamaica with the darker shades of greens. It's gonna be quite interesting to see exactly what unfolds. This year could be even more robust than that of 2005 or even that of 2020. So it's just a waiting game to see exactly what unfolds. Let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic. We can see that we have a trough right there to the north of the main development region, and we can see that the high pressure ridge is still dominating the northern section of North Atlantic, sending all of those easterly trade winds off of Africa across the main development region into the Caribbean. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, you can see those low-level patches of clouds pushing from east to west, all courtesy of that easterly trade wind brought about by that high-pressure ridge, bringing some amount of low-level clouds with some showers embedded within them into portions of the eastern Caribbean, the south central and western Caribbean. Even sections of Jamaica got in some amount of afternoon convection today. And we can also see the clouds associated with that trough spinning away to the north of the main development region. We'll be talking more about the Caribbean's weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. So if we remember yesterday's video, it stated that we would have received some amount of morning rainfall across sections of some northern parishes and maybe some eastern parishes, also affecting sections of some central and western parishes during the afternoon. We know northern parishes, we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Central and western parishes, well, eastern, central and western parishes. On eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, so Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, so St. Anne, St. Mary, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester. Western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, so St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, and Trelawney. And what ended up happening? As early as 6:30 a.m., we had some amount of rainfall taking place across sections of some northern and eastern parishes. Sections of St. Mary, Portland got in on some of that rainfall, as we could see on the Cuban Doppler radar images represented by the greens. Skipping ahead to about 4:05 p.m., we saw that even although for the most part it did not come to fruition in terms of widespread rainfall across the island, we did indeed get in on some amount of afternoon thunderstorm activity. And we don't usually see thunderstorm activity this early in the season if we don't have something in the vicinity of the ear, maybe a cold front or a trough. But apparently we have conditions ripe enough for some amount of thunderstorm activity, as we could see by those sparkling yellow dots on this visible satellite imagery, especially across sections of western Jamaica, right there across the cockpit country, eastern Westmoreland, eastern Hanover. The hills of St. James definitely gotten on some of the action as well. And we saw the high cold clouds being blown off towards the south and the east to signify that we indeed had some amount of cumulonimbus clouds in our area today. So we definitely had some thunderstorm activity across sections of St. Elizabeth, southern St. James, Westmoreland, and Hanover today. And we have some of our followers confirming the rainfall in their area. Audrey stating raining in the hills of St. James presently. Kay stating a little rain in the hills of St. James. Even on our Instagram page, we had mygirl_lollipop stating right now Mobile flood out, rain like wow. Even on our Instagram page, we had St. James_boy stating raining here in Granville, St. James. We have Alice Miles stating thunderstorm season start for true, raining in Hanover. Then we had Ryan stating raining in Hanover as well. Even free_promo_official stating we're having thunderstorm from last week in St. Elizabeth. Then we had mom of 3_Becky stating raining cats and dogs as predicted. So it was actually coming to fruition for some areas, but not all, especially us here in the most populated portion of the island, the Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine side. Majority of the heaviest or the bad weather was located across western Jamaica for today. And this is the reason why all of the clouds came in from the east with those low level winds, and then they piled up. All of that piled up across inland areas of some central and western parishes. Then we have that upper level wind being, the driver of these thunderstorms, pushing all of those upper level clouds off towards the south and the east. And we know we have those sparkling dots that represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. And we still have some of that taking place right now. If we reload these infrared satellite images, we're still having some amount of thunderstorm activity taking place across sections of Hanover and Westmoreland as we speak. And if we take a look at the latest Cuban Doppler radar images, the latest one is of 6:40 p.m. and we see that the time right now is 6:50 p.m. So the latest Cuban Doppler radar images are actually showing some amount of light to moderate or even heavy rainfall still taking place across sections of Westmoreland, Hanover, and even sections of St. James right now. As it relates to the temperatures right now, we can say we have 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston. And by about 3 a.m. on Monday, temperature should dip down to about 22 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 21 degrees Celsius in Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we see that this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday, and we see Jamaica embedded in some yellows and some slight oranges that are representative of 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperatures for the month of March are about 87.2 degrees Fahrenheit. I know we look at the thermometer, that's about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperatures on Monday. As it relates to the dry air map, we can still see that there's a lot of dry air plaguing the area still, as we can see represented by the key at the bottom, the yellows, oranges, and the reds, and the whites within those reds. We see the driest air on this map right there to the northeast, or to the east of the northeastern United States, represented by those reds and whites within those reds. Not to mention right there off the coast of Africa, where more than likely we have the Saharan dust. So this is the actual Saharan dust forecast. This is the forecast for 2 p.m. on Monday, and we do see Jamaica is definitely in the clear along with the rest of the Caribbean, as all the browns that represent the Saharan dust should be across portions of the main development region, especially right there off the coast of Africa, where we have those darker shades of browns, which we know indicate those vigorous plumes of dust. As it relates to the sea surface temperature map, we're actually taking a look right now of the progression, especially across the eastern Pacific. It actually started in December, so it's actually looking at the past 3 months. So we see it right here, time frame from December, and we see the eastern Pacific Ocean. We had the reds, and we're starting to cool it a bit down, more so in the way of oranges, getting more to the yellow side. But look at the Atlantic and main development region, as well as the Caribbean right there. It's basically warming as we speak. There is not much change happening. Look at these reds closer to Africa, definitely warm, so it's definitely bath water. So any tropical wave, when it's actually that time to be coming off of Africa, is gonna be entering quite favorable environment, and all of those, as we know, usually push from east to west into portion of the Caribbean. So it's quite interesting times ahead, and I'll definitely be here to keep you all posted. As it relates to the wave forecast, we can see that we're having more in the way of blues surrounding the island for tomorrow by both the Euro and the GFS, and we can see that by the key on the bottom right, the blues are representative of anywhere from 0.5 of a meter to 1 meter wave height, and that's because the winds are not going to be that strong at all, averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knots coming in from the east. And we actually see that we're going to be having more of those blues across inland areas of some central and especially western parishes in Jamaica. So we might just get a repeat of what happened today, with more of that afternoon rainfall, maybe even some isolated thunderstorm activity across sections of Hanover, if not Westmoreland again. And with the upper level winds still coming in from the west northwest or the northwest, just like what we saw today, with those upper level clouds being pushed off towards the southeast, all courtesy of those upper level winds. We might get on some amount of overcast skies, if not most of the rainfall across sections of some southern parishes in Jamaica. And the rainfall forecast confirms this. This is actually showing 5 p.m. on the Euro model. We see the blues represent rainfall across inland areas of some central parishes, as well as sections of some western parishes in Jamaica. So it basically confirms what we just saw on the wind map. GFS showing something similar, with the blues that represent rainfall across western Jamaica, Cockpit Country, definitely again Hanover and Westmoreland, maybe even sections of St. Elizabeth and St. James getting in on the action. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS maps are showing some amount of rainfall for the island for tomorrow, definitely less than what we saw in yesterday's forecast. Euro showing up to 0.22 of an inch of rainfall within the next 24 hours. GFS showing up to 0.18 of an inch of rainfall. Either way, rainfall is in the forecast for section of the island for tomorrow, and we're indeed grateful for that. We're in the month of March. We're starting to wrap up the dry season. We usually get up to 87.15 millimeters of rainfall during this month, so we'll take all the rainfall that we can get at this time. It's better to get rain than no rain at all, even although, you know, sometimes Jamaica is easily flooded. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. Excuse me. So So we can see the leftovers of the cold front that was affecting portions of the southern and eastern United States. Some leftover clouds bringing some of the overcast skies and isolated showers to some areas. We can see the clouds associated with the flow of wind are associated with some leftover troughs or leftover cold fronts still pushing their way from east to west across the Caribbean. We can also see a buildup of clouds across sections of southern Venezuela, sections of northeastern South America as well. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean to confirm what we're seeing on the satellite images, we can see that sections of Puerto Rico have been getting in on somewhat of rainfall, as we can see by those greens and yellows. Sections of the US and British Virgin Islands as well, not to mention sections of the Leeward Islands, including Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe, Dominica. We can also see a lot of rainfall coming in from the northeast to affect sections of Barbados as we speak. They've been getting this rainfall throughout the day today. Sections of Martinique as well, not to mention St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, maybe Grenada later on tonight. Not much activity taking place across Trinidad and Tobago right now though. Maybe Tobago getting the brunt of the rainfall, maybe even more tonight. But as it relates to the wider view of Doppler radar images, we do see some specks of greens and yellows that represent somewhat of rainfall across sections of Colombia, some rainfall to the north of the ABC Islands, some rainfall affecting sections of Guyana, French Guyana, sections of Cuba, as well as sections of Florida. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Monday. When we calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Monday. And these are the temperatures. We see more in the way of grays that represent average or normal temperatures in the forecast for sections of Eastern and the Central Caribbean. Well, we see more yellows, oranges, and reds that are going to be plaguing sections of the Greater Antilles, the Bahamas, Florida, the Western Caribbean, Central America, Gulf of Mexico, and section of the US, especially where we see those reds definitely way above normal temperatures are being forecasted. As it relates to the siren, those forecasts are 2 p.m. on Monday. We do see that majority of the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, majority of Northern and South America should be in the clear, as all the browns that represent the siren dust should be across sections of the main development region, especially where we have those vigorous plumes as represented by those darker shades of browns right there off the coast of Africa. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing much of the same. Some lighter shades of blues that represent 0.5 per meter wave height, as we can see by the key on the bottom right for sections of the Gulf of Mexico, the Western Caribbean. And we have darker shades of blue that represent anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights, plaguing the Western to the Central Eastern Caribbean. Well, look at those purples. We see a lot of purples right there to the northeast of the Caribbean, to the north of Hispaniola, north of Puerto Rico, north of the Leeward Islands. And we know those purples represent anywhere from 2 to 3 meter wave heights. And all of that has to do with the winds. We see the winds curving right there around the trough that's situated to the north of the main development region. Definitely bringing some 20 to close to 25 knot winds right there. Definitely kicking up the waters of the Atlantic, which explains the high wave heights. But as relates to the winds across the Caribbean, definitely coming in from the east, averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 to even 15 knots, maybe 25 knots right there to the north of Colombia as usual. As it relates to the rainfall forecast, these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. It's showing all the rainfall that's expected within the next 24 hours. If they're not already getting the rainfall right now, these are the areas that are going to be getting in on the rainfall before the next 24 hours are up. So section of Florida, the Bahamas, sections of the eastern portion of Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, sections of Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, sections of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Barbados. Skipping and looking southward, we do see some more rainfall in store for sections of French Guyana, southeastern Venezuela, sections of Colombia as usual, northwestern Panama, eastern Costa Rica, and even sections of the Cayman Islands getting in on the action as well. I know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.